Chief Justice John Roberts issued a rare statement today. It was one that directly confronts the Trump administration after the president called for a judge to be impeached. Roberts defended the judiciary's independence and rejected impeachment as a response to disagreeing with a jurist's rulings, reminding Trump and the White House that the normal appellate review process exists specifically for that purpose. Now, the clash between Trump and the judiciary, a potential tipping point, follows federal judge James Boasberg blocking the deportation of Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador under a seldom used Wartime Powers Act and directing any planes that were in the air carrying deportees to return to the United States. An order that was seemingly ignored by the Trump administration and was met with mockery from the Salvadorian president, who tweeted, "Oopsie, too late." In a hearing today, Judge Boasberg called into question the legality of using the Alien Enemies Act as the basis to deport the migrants. He demanded answers. His demand, rather, for answers was largely stonewalled by the Justice Department, with the judge summarizing the government's position as, "We don't care, we'll do what we want." Joining me now is former federal prosecutor Paul Butler, MSNBC legal analyst and Georgetown law professor, and Skye Perryman, president and CEO of Democracy Forward. It's great to have both of you with us. Paul, you know, this rare rebuke from Justice John Roberts, just tell me about how significant it is, how rare it is to hear from a justice kind of publicly come out with a statement like that, and why it is perceived as a rebuke for the president.
This is extraordinary. The Chief Justice of the United States is following the president's social media posts and was so concerned about a potential constitutional crisis that he responded almost immediately. I think the chief is worried about two things. One, breakdown in the rule of law. Trump's immigration czar said, "We don't have to listen to this judge. He's just one little judge." I think, as importantly, the chief is concerned about the safety and security of judges. Look, Donald Trump knows this guy is not going to be impeached. You can only be impeached for public corruption or for misconduct. There have only been 15 impeachments of federal judges in American history. Trump doesn't have the 67 votes he would need in the Senate to remove this guy. So this is about sending a message to all judges that if you don't go along with Donald Trump, he's going to come for you.
So you bring up a really interesting point, because immediately after Justice Roberts made that statement, a MAGA acolyte, Republican Congress, moved forward with filing impeachment charges against the judge anyways. So to your point, it's not going to happen. They don't have the votes for it to happen. Yet there are people in the MAGA world, and certainly Republicans, who worship Donald Trump and ready to do whatever he tells them to do, and they followed suit. How dangerous is that?
No, January 6th is an example of just how dangerous it can be. So when Trump sicks his supporters on judges, there are real consequences and not speculative. A couple of years ago, somebody showed up at the house of a federal judge. Her son answered the door. This man shot the son dead. Other judges have been threatened. In December, John Roberts, the Chief Justice, issued a report where he said there are all these threats against judges. This is a dangerous time. He didn't name Trump then. He pretty much did name Trump today. He didn't say his name. But again, responding just a couple of hours later, the point's clear.
Skye, let me play for you a part of Trump's interview on Fox. I'll get your reactions to it on the other side.
I don't know who the judge is, but he's radical left. He was Obama appointed. And he actually said we shouldn't be able to take criminals, killers, murderers, horrible, the worst people, gang members, gang leaders, that we shouldn't be allowed to take them out of our country. Well, that's a presidential job. That's not for a local judge to be making that determination.
I'm not sure what that is. The president saying that it's a presidential job, not for a local judge to be making that determination. Are there quote-unquote presidential jobs that fall outside the purview of the courts in this country? Is there anything the president can do in which the courts in this country do not have a say?
You know, the president's comments are not only a threat to the American people, they're a threat to our Constitution. And you see that right out. Unwilling to be bound by the rule of law in this country. The federal judge in this case, actually, I think the White House needs to check a bit of its notes, was appointed to the bench of a local court in Washington, D.C. by George W. Bush. And then, of course, was appointed to the federal bench, which is somewhat common as a stepping stone, was appointed to to the federal bench, of course, by President Obama. But the main thing here is that you have a judge, letting the government have a time to be heard, but seeking to really ensure that justice is done in this case, and the government flagrantly really disregarding, or at least saying that it doesn't believe that it has to answer to courts in this country. That is dangerous for every single American.